Howdy class. In today's tutorial, we're going to learn how to create and apply materials to an object in Revit 2019. While this may seem like a complicated process in the beginning, I'm confident you guys are going to learn all the steps and be able to apply any materials to any object that you want. To start off, let's select the family that's been loaded into our model space of 2 cubes. In the Properties browser, we're going to select the Edit Type tab to see what parameters have already been embedded inside this family. We see 2 materials that have been pre-loaded, Material 1 and Material 2. We can see that by the By Category tag that no material is associated with this family currently in our project environment. If we hover over the cell that says By Category and click, we will get a little square here in the right-hand corner with 3 dots. Let's select that. This will bring up our Materials browser. This field shows all the materials that have been loaded into our project. If we scroll down, we can already see that Revit has provided us a number of good materials to apply to any object that we may want. This field represents all the materials that are available to us from the materials library that comes when you download Revit 2019. When you do a search for a new material, if it is not located in the Project Materials field, it will appear in the lower field as a material that is available to you to insert into your project. If we select Wood Stained, in the right-hand side of this field, all of the data that is associated with that material becomes available to us. Under the Identity tab, we'll see any of the text that's associated with that material. The name, the description, the class, and so on under descriptive information. Product information can also be applied to this material, such as manufacturer or a website that can be easily accessed from Revit to pull up specs or cut sheets. Under the Graphics tab, we'll see any 2D graphics that are associated with our material. Under the Shading tab, we'll have a color associated with our material that will be visible under the Shaded and Consistent Color graphic display options. This can be used to show a quote-unquote cartoon set or early SD version representing our material without a specific image. For instance, if it's wood, maybe it's a brown color. If it's steel, maybe it's a darker color. If it's gypsum board, maybe it's a lighter color. The surface pattern represents any kind of hatch pattern that we would see in a 2D environment. For instance, brick coursing, or a concrete hatch, or siding. In the cut pattern, we would see a hatch pattern that only appears when an item is cut in section or plan. This allows us to understand what materials are being used in sometimes abstract drawings like a section detail. This way, a consultant or another engineer can easily read our drawings and tell which material is which just by the hatch pattern. Under the Appearance tab is where we can start to associate an image with our material. These images live outside of your Revit project. The Revit Materials Library comes preloaded with thousands of different material textures that you can use inside your project. You can also create custom textures from JPEGs or PNGs that you've found on the internet or that you've taken yourself. To access those images, under the image file, this text is actually a hyperlink. If we click this, this will navigate to the storage location of that image file. This file happens to live in the Revit Material Library. If it were a JPEG or a PNG that you've created yourself, that file should be stored in a place that you are readily able to access. Here we can see the thousands of different image files that Revit provides us to add texture to our different objects. And when rendered, these textures will appear very close to realistic. There are many different options to customize each material and the images that are associated with it. From a relief pattern, which would give a depth and texture to your material image, or even a tint that will change the color and shading of your material. To manipulate that image, we have some functions available to us in the Revit editor. If we click on the image file, we'll see that we can change the brightness of our image and texture, the position, the rotation, particularly for wood grain, if we want that grain in a specific direction, or the size. Now let's select wood stained for our first material. As we can see, it's populated here in Material 1 under the Value column. Where we had by category before in that cell, now we have our new material. For Material 2, let's select that field and click our box with 3 dots. For this material, we want to create a new material. In the left-hand corner, we see a sphere with a blue plus icon. By clicking on this, we have 2 options: to create a new material or duplicate a selected material. For this instance, we're going to create a new material. Immediately, Revit will provide a default new material for us to manipulate. Under Identity, we're going to change the name of this to iArc 311. Under our Graphics tab, we're going to create a board-formed concrete. So for our shading, we're going to leave that as gray. For our surface pattern, which is what we would see in a 2D environment when our drawing is not cut, we're going to select horizontal lines. For our cut pattern, since this is board-formed concrete, we want that material to show us that this is concrete based on the hatch pattern. So for our foreground pattern, we're going to select a concrete hatch pattern. Under the Appearance tab, we can see we have no material selected. There's no image associated. If we select the link below the image, we're able to navigate to our materials library. Another option we have for selecting an image or appearance is our Assets library. If we select that, this brings us textured images that are already associated with a material that we can apply to our material. If we do a quick search for board-formed concrete, Revit will bring up the materials that are already located in your material library. To add this material to our new material, we would simply click this asset button and replace the asset that we have currently loaded. When we hear the term asset, that is referring to the appearance section or tab in our materials browser. It does not affect our graphics tab that we selected earlier or our identity tab that we placed our new name at. It is only referencing this material asset. And as you can see, we've got new images associated with our material, board-formed concrete. Now we're going to click OK to close out of our materials browser for Material 2, IARC 311. We've applied these two materials to the type properties of our cube families. Once we click OK and close out of the type properties browser, these materials should be applied. You can see the material textures applied to this family that we selected earlier. The board-formed concrete material that we created and the wood stain material that was already preloaded into our Revit model. Under our Graphic Display tab, if we change from Realistic to Hidden Line, we can see some of those 2D graphic patterns that we applied to our material, specifically the board-formed concrete. We can start to see the surface pattern of horizontal lines that we attached. On the wood stain, we see there was no surface pattern applied. If I select my section box in the 3D view and cut through that board-formed concrete, we should start to see the concrete hatch pattern appear because it's a cut pattern that's been applied. If you navigate to the Manage tab above the ribbon, in the far left corner, the materials icon is a sphere with a checkered hatch. Let's select that. This brings up our material browser. Under the project materials, we can see that IARC 311, our board-formed concrete material, is accessible for any element in our project environment. Materials, again, can seem complicated from the start. But as you continually use this function and feature of Revit 2019, you're going to get more comfortable. It may seem cumbersome and complicated at first, but as you continue to use this software, it's going to get quicker, more efficient, and easier with each click. I hope this tutorial helps you guys in your first projects. I'm really excited to see what you come up with. Thanks.